Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this month's webinar, Creating with Canva, presented by the North American Cambridge Classics Project and underwritten by Cambridge University Press. We are so delighted to have Stefanie Gigante as our presenter this evening. Stefanie is a regular presenter for NACCP, and she also serves on the NACCP board. In addition, she's a regular presenter at our annual CLC Summer Workshop. She frequently presents at conferences regarding technology integration and language classroom best practices. She's a certified Google and Pear Deck trainer and a technology innovation specialist in her district, and she teaches at Ridgewood High School in New Jersey. We are recording this webinar, and if you need a professional development certificate for this evening's webinar, please email us at training@cambridgelatin.org. And on that note, Stefanie, let's talk about Canva.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I am thrilled to bring you Canva today. We were doing one of the summer workshops, and I had mentioned Canva enough times that people's interest was really piqued. What is this Canva and how can I use it? And I mean, Canva is honestly one of my best friends in terms of ed tech, at least. I have human best friends too, don't worry. And I thought it might be nice to sort of share it on a more global level. And so some of the stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you today, it may not be specific to a stage or a story or, a character or something like that you might have in mind. But I'm hoping that the experience of looking through a bunch of the resources that Canva has to offer, it will inspire you, and it will, trigger that idea of, oh, I could do this, and I can maybe update my usual activity that I usually do with this story with an activity that I can develop on Canva. So wherever possible, I will be linking it to content and activities that are sourced in Cambridge Latin course. But I do kind of want your imaginations to wander a little bit and think, outside the box, and not like, well, these are the things that Steph does. And so, these are the things that I will do too. All right, so without further ado, I did put a link in the chat to a tiny URL, and that will lead you to the presentation in sort of a broad sense. And let's see here. I'm going to share my screen now. I just have to do a little bit of housekeeping, whoops, with my Zoom right now. I just want to close this out. I always forget how to close this little bar. Oh, here we go. Hide floating meeting controls. Perfect. Oh my goodness. That's not what I meant to do. And then I got to minimize that. Okay. So look at that. Canva did that. Canva did all of my things today. So this is an always open link from this tiny URL. You'll always be able to access this presentation. I will be doing a lot of live presentation tonight too, in terms of how to build and how to use Canva. So I'm glad that they're recording the webinar. It will be posted on the Cambridge Classics website afterwards, and then you'll be able to sort of refer to it in the event that you might forget, how I did a bunch of things. So my name and contact info is here. If you've attended one of my webinars or workshops in the past, my email address has changed since the last time we spoke. If you have the old one, it'll still bounce back to this one. But if you are new to the Stefanie Gigante circle, this is my email address now. It's much shorter than the old one. Yay, score. So Canva gives a number of, and the number is really too broad to actually count, and that's not just because I'm not a math teacher, but there's like really millions of resources that you can create with Canva. So my sort of quick introduction is this idea that I've been teaching for 22 years. I'd like to think I'm a halfway decent Latin teacher, but I am honestly horrible at graphic design stuff. My sense of color, my sense of images and placement and stuff like that, it's not great. And if any of you have sort of grown up around the same time that I am, our
Get the birth certificate.
I'm sorry? Oh, okay. Our tool of choice, like, Adobe Photoshop or something like that, those are sort of notoriously hard to use. This Canva program is very easy to use, which is really going to be a blessing because you don't have to have a, background in graphic design to be able to design resources on Canva. Um, I design resources that I use with my students, and then I also create assignments in Canva or create activities in Canva that I use as a template when my students are doing activities too. So I'm going to show you as many things as I possibly can in the time that we have together. Sorry, I just have the presentation in two places to make sure I'm keeping to my timeline too. All right. So a couple of sort of highlights for the Canva experience. You can save time. Honestly, the timeline of creating a Canva product and deploying it, you could use something in 10 minutes or less, depending on the activity and depending on what you want to use it for. Canva is a great place to get started with using AI. As you might remember, in the summertime, as part of our summer workshop series, we did, Amy Mason and I did a long session on AI in Latin education. And if you're sort of still worried about how you might be using AI, Canva is actually a really good way to sort of dip your toes in and to start working with it a little bit. And I'm going to be honest, it's kind of fun to use AI when it's in Canva. And I'll show you all of that, don't worry. As I said, you can create activities for students, so you can customize one of their templates. Which I'll show you how to do. And then you can use that template as an assignment template. So imagine like in Google Classroom where you have one activity, right? And you select that option in Google Classroom where you're posting it as assignment and you say make a copy for each student. You can do that with any Canva project too, so that no one has to mess with your original and you can use it from year to year. Another thing, and I'm going to show you some of my past projects, promoting your program. And that's such an ongoing and big and important conversation that we always have, right? We are in the minority, whether it's in the world language department or in our school as a language itself. And so we are, I think most of us, we do PR for like 50% of our jobs sometimes, right? So Canva provides a lot of different resources for you to use to promote your program. And so I'll show you some examples of what I've done in that department. And again, the creation of those materials is super easy to do. All right, so these are some ways that I use Canva, and I'm going to show you this stuff, and then I'm going to take you into my like Canva landing page, and I'm going to show you like my actual projects that I've used. So I have used Canva to promote all kinds of events for the North American Cambridge Classics project. We did Latin Camp this summer, and so you can see this brochure that I made. I made this poster to sort of promote what we were doing. And I'm telling you, it really didn't take very long. It was really a question of like putting in the information that I wanted, but in terms of formatting, most of it was already there and done for me. Student created grammar and language infographics that help them review stories. Whenever I give creative projects in my classes, my students like automatically go to Canva. And they start creating something on there. So one of the elements I did for a new version of a final exam, it is definitely a project. It's not really an exam, but I had them review grammar from a story, and it was a story that they had read for the first time. It was a story at sight, and so I had them almost go on like a scavenger hunt. But then they had to produce, this is the clause that we found that is a result clause, and this is the clause that we found that's a gerundive of obligation. So as a final exam, right, they're reviewing a bunch of different things. So I sent them to Canva and I said, okay, make an infographic, which is like a really long poster. So I've had students do that. You can very easily make customized Google Classroom headers. That's what's here. And I actually, a couple years ago, so once I figured out that you could do this on Canva, I have one Google Classroom banner and I just have like 3 different versions of it because I teach 3 different sections of Latin too. So you could do the same. Like once you get something that works for you, you can just kind of like re-customize it to fit the specific circumstance. Um, Posters in the classroom. We all decorate our classroom with a bunch of stuff. And sometimes you don't always have the time to really spend to like design something. Canva will help you out there too. So I made bathroom signs for my students this year so that they could use Latin to use the bathroom. And I just kind of gave it a quick design in Canva and it was done, printed, and on my wall within 15 minutes. Um, I also have highlighted over here. So I do class participation using Class Dojo, and I show the students ahead of time, like at the beginning of the year when we do class expectations. I say these are all the ways that you can get participation points. And when I designed this, I designed it in Canva. This is an infographic, and so it would have been like a regular poster size. Excuse me. And so I actually, sorry, let me get a drink of water real fast. I sent my infographic poster to our IT department. They have a large color printer. In our high school, we have like one actual color printer for the entire 150 person faculty. So I sent it to them because this was kind of a larger job. The size of the poster that they gave me was enormous. It's like my height. I'm not that tall, but it's like 5 feet tall. So I hung it in my classroom. This is very easy to read, very engaging, and the kids have this like, visual reference every single day as to these are the ways in which I can get participation points. And again, once I got the formatting down, it was really easy to just kind of plug in the information. And then I made this at a professional development opportunity with some of the colleagues in my department, and they thought this was really cool. So I shared it with them. They made a copy and customized it slightly to their specific language in their classroom. And now they have giant posters of Class Dojo points in their room as well. So it's a nice way to collaborate with colleagues and to also have that sense of unity in terms of what we expect as a department. Celebration of student achievements. Sorry, I have a little tickle in my throat today. Um, my colleague, Amy Mason, who is phenomenal and has also done her own Canva workshops over the years, she and I co-develop a poster every year to celebrate our National Latin Exam winners. And when I say poster, it's massive. And we ask the students who have received awards to submit a picture. We plug in the pictures to this overall graphic, and then we print it out with IT's help, and then we laminate it, and we have these posters on the doors of the classroom so that, the kids walking by in the hallway, even if they're not Latin students, they're like, oh my gosh, oh, that's my friend. And that's a great way to just promote your program. Like these are the great things that our kids are doing, assuming you have permission to use their image and likeness. Social media posts and advertisements and things like that. We have a department, not department. We have a specific Latin Instagram page for the Ridgewood High School Latin program, and we take pictures all the time and just post them. And it keeps the parents involved, but it also keeps the kids involved. And there are really easy ways to get Canva-based content for those social media posts. And there's so much more. In fact, this is one thing that didn't make the list. This is a syllabus or like a course outline of a Latin 5 honors course that we have at my high school now. This is the second year we've been running it. Again, I designed this whole thing in Canva, and it really didn't take me very long, which is great because how many times are we doing stuff like this over the summertime and you really don't want to spend hours or days doing it. You want something that you can just kind of like plug in your stuff and get your content out. And then I like promoting reading to my students, which, tracks, right? Because as a reading-based language course, I want to encourage my students to read. And so I show them that I'm reading all the time. So I put together a summer reading list of everything that I read over the summer, and I posted it to our Ridgewood High School Instagram page, or our Ridgewood High School Latin Instagram page. And then I printed it out for my classrooms just so that students could see, I'm a reader, I'm engaged in reading, and that they can be too. And I've had a number of students who kind of catch up with me about novels that I've read, like, oh, what's your favorite one that you read this year or something like that. So that's another great way to do it. So I have here, and so much more. So let's go ahead and take a look at my projects page. So I'm going to show you this sort of basic graphic. This is This presentation, although I customized it and put my own spin on it, this came as a template from Canva. I know you're not really surprised at this point, are you? So this is like a Canva presentation of how to use Canva. So there's a quick, overview here of how to access your projects. You can star documents that are really important. A lot of the access that's in Canva is identical to the process that you would find and use documents in Google Drive. Probably the same thing as like Microsoft 360, but I'm not as familiar with that software. So you still have starred things, so things that are important to you. So if you decide to start working on a project, but you realize, okay, I only have, a 40-minute prep, so I'm going to star it and then go back to it next time I have my 40-minute prep. So that would be the idea of starring something. You can search for things using filters, and the filters, narrow it down by category. The categories that they have there, they're very, very broad. So even though they do have the option to sort it by category, I would just kind of take that with a grain of salt. You can add something new. You can also just, search your content. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to, okay, there we go. I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to go to, this is my Canva projects page. So when I log into Canva, this is what I see. These are all my projects. And these are, recent designs. So it kind of says like, these are the things you've been working on recently if you want to continue working on them. A quick overview of things that I've been working on. In terms of language lessons, I've always done a flipped classroom model in which the students take notes on a video-based language instruction at home rather than doing it in an in-class way. And then we practice when we get back to the classroom. This year, I decided to give them guided notes for their project, or sorry, for their language instruction, because I felt like the quality of notes was deteriorating in recent years. And I felt like students weren't taking note of things that I believed were very important, and they weren't writing down a lot of stuff that was in the videos. So I created a notes template. So you can see here, this is my language guided notes template, and then this is the Stage 19 notes that I drafted from that template. And so I can always access it. And because the template looks the same for each one, the students have that idea of, cohesion among all of their language instruction. Also for Canva, this was a personal project, but it works. My son just turned 13 and we got him a Spotify premium subscription for his birthday. So I made him a little, card thing to tell him that that's what he was getting. I started to make an invitation to his laser tag birthday party. I clearly didn't finish. But let's scroll down a little bit. You can also have, as you can see, you can have folders and you can organize your folders by the class that you have. You can link your Canva account with Classroom. And I just realized that I forgot to lead with possibly the most important piece of information about Canva. It's free. If you work for a school district, all the premium features are free. I'm sorry I didn't mention that before, but they want teachers to use it. They want you to be able to develop content with it. And so as long as you have a district or like a school district type of email address, they'll verify your account as a school account, and then you have access to everything all the time. Really, really great stuff. Other things that I've used it for, and this is really, I'm just trying to sort of inspire you and give you ideas of things that you might be able to do in your classroom. This is one of my students' bookmarks. So I use novellas in my classroom, and I have all the students create their own bookmark so that they can have some semblance of, this is definitely the book that I'm reading, and then they don't forget what page they're on to. So I had them design it in Canva. I actually gave them an assignment that was based in a template. But I gave them some broad range for which template they used. And I just said, use something that's classical. And then I got to kind of see their creative side. One of my students, sorry, not one of my students, one of my coworkers, she teaches ESL. She's teaching Oedipus to her class, or Antigone, excuse me, to her ESL students. And she was wondering how to make a family tree. So she happened to be out of office that day. So I made a family tree for her, and I made a little screencast about how to create this family tree in a template and then how to organize it. So this would be really great for mythology lessons even, right? So I think we've been sort of imagining how it's going to fit into, the stories and the language of Cambridge Latin course, but you can use it for cultural topics too. Um, this was my AI presentation that I made for ACL this summer. This was a poster that I made for the ACL. Again, with my novellas, I made an infographic about reading. Honestly, this is so cute. And I don't usually I'm not one to brag about my stuff, but I loved this little project that I did. I'm gonna open it in a new window just so I can show you real fast. So this was a graphic, and it came kind of prefab. I did edit it for what I wanted it to be, but this is the result. And I again printed it out on a larger scale. I had it laminated, and now it's hanging in my classroom. Everyone who has seen it has loved it. And I didn't do that much work to make it happen because Canva is just so easy to use. Going back to my projects page, and I will stop talking about my projects in just a second. I'm just trying to inspire you and show you what you can do with Canva too. Why is it? Okay. Show more. I have my email signature. I made that in Canva too. Let's see here. These are my Google Classroom banners. I have one that's specific to Kurtaman, but as you can see, I just used the same one. I changed the background color and for my intermediate versus advanced, and then I called it a day. After our students really performed well at the state convention of the New Jersey Junior Classical League, my colleague Amy made this collage of all the content that they had created and all the awards that they won. And so I was a co-editor on it as well. This was that National Latin Exam Awards poster that I was speaking of earlier. We made a brochure about our program and the classes that we have that we pitched to the younger students. Let's see here. All sorts of things. I could probably go on, ad nauseum, but I won't. I will go back and I will kind of summarize it for you. All right, so let's start out in the template library. The template library is like literally your best friend. So when you're searching for something or anything, all you have to do is, you can go to templates here. You can go to education-based stuff, but again, there are categories that's the only thing that kind of leaves something to be desired, only because it's just not specific enough, There are social media templates, there are print products, as in posters and flyers and things like that, and brochures. There are business-oriented things, which we teachers probably don't know what a lot of that is. You can make video content really easily. You can make marketing content, cards and invitations. You can invite people to like a National Latin Exam Awards ceremony or something at the end of the year. When I went to templates, it immediately gave me docs, whiteboard templates, Zoom virtual backgrounds. I made my background behind me. I made it in Canva. See, I practice what I preach. Presentations, flyers, Instagram posts, brochures, infographics. Again, they do have a lot of ready to teach lessons. They do kind of pep this stuff, but they are largely sort of elementary oriented. Obviously, you can you can adapt it or whatever, but I just want you to know, like, ready to teach lessons, unfortunately, we're too niche for that sort of thing. That's okay. But if you go to presentations, right, so maybe you want to create something that you can use in class. You have some categories up here: Father's Day presentation, Pride presentation, et cetera, et cetera. I just went to presentation and I look at the beautiful options that they have. When you find something that fits the thing that you want to do. So let's take this presentation and we'll say, okay, you have scheduled a trip to Rome and Britain so that you can walk in Quintus's footsteps. You can take the Natalie field trip, right? You can emulate her trip from her blog. And you're like, this presentation looks like it could fit. When you click on it, before you start customizing it, it actually gives you access to what each of the slides looks like. So you can kind of get a vision for what you might do. And you might think, oh, that actually works really well. Or you might say, no, you know what, I'm not really feeling it. If you're not feeling it, you just click this X and you get out and you try something else. But if you're interested in customizing it, all you have to do is click customize this template. Yeah, pretty easy, right? One word of advice, I guess you could say, is as soon as you choose to use a template, and you can see evidence of me not doing this and how annoying it might be, name it right away. Because right now, the name of the document, this is not what I'm doing with it. This is just sort of the template name itself. So if I wanted to say, you know, proposal for Marilyn's campus. Sorry to call you out, Natalie, but you did such a fabulous trip. I'm jealous, actually. I wanted to do it with my students and no one was interested in it. So name it right away so that at least you can find it in the future. And then you can just, you know, honestly start exploring. So in terms of, this was the original, this is my template. I was just going to show you a little bit about it. Just trying to hide this bar here. Hide floating meeting controls. Perfect. Oh, I can press escape. Okay. Anywho. Okay. So where did it go? There it is. Let's look at the editor. Okay, so the editor is where the magic's going to happen. So if you are following along with me, I would definitely go to Canva. I would choose a template and try to, you know, do stuff sort of along with me so that you kind of get a feel for, you know, what the process feels like for you and what the screen looks like, because I can demonstrate this, but I know a little bit more about it. And so if you're sort of living the experience alongside me, it might be easier for you to remember how to do it all. Okay, so up here in the upper left-hand corner, this is the design tab, which basically means this is your design that you chose to use, right? All 14 pages, they already populated down here. But if you really like this first slide with the airplane, you can always put another airplane one in. And then you should have two. Where did it go? Oh, I think it's because I'm already on that slide. Well, you can always go here then, and you can just duplicate it. And then you can have two airplane slides. Okay. But this just kind of gives you an idea of like where your template is and, you know, where you came from, I guess you could say. All right. And then, my friends, let us enter the Elements tab. The Elements tab is really amazing. It leaves nothing behind. You have so many options for what you can do in your elements. Recently used, see all. You can see everything that I've been working with recently. These are all a bunch of images. See the bathroom sign? Remember I told you about that? This was from another poster that I did. All sorts of things. This is the Cambridge camp stuff from the summertime. These are all the images that I used. But let's not get bogged down in the past. Let's see what they have in the present tense. So shapes, I know you're probably like, okay, that's super boring, but I mean, look at the variety of shapes that they have, right? And you can obviously customize it with the color, etc. And then graphics. So the first bit of graphics that they're going to suggest to you are the graphics that are available in this presentation.
I was once you. I couldn't afford.
So with the, it's going to give you recent, magic recommendations, the idea of magic. And I want you to keep this in mind for later. Canva uses the idea of magic as sort of a stand-in, I guess, for the idea of AI. So when you're looking at magic recommendations, it's saying, okay, from this template, these are all the correlative images that you might have. And you can scroll down and there's a lot of them. I bet you looked at those 14 slides and you were like, I didn't see some of these images. You're right. It's using AI to sort of generate, you know, correlating images, right? Like there's no, whatchamacallit, what's this called? Polaroid camera in the actual template, but you can put it in. And then it's also making recommendations based on some of my recent searches too, which you'll see why this was my recent search in a little while. So these are all, graphics that you can use, and then you can kind of repurpose them in whatever way you want. Then there's featured, you can do gradient, there's stickers, collections of stuff, team badges, simple drawn objects, sketchy flowers. I mean, these are like trillions and trillions of graphics, which is great. Our stories in the Cambridge Line course, we encompass the whole gamut of Roman society, right? We have going to the bathhouses in stage 9. We have elections in stage 11. We have education in stage 10. We have Roman Britain in half of the Blue Book. We have the worship of Isis. Imagine what you can do when you have all of these images at your disposal. You can obviously, take a screenshot of some of the images they use in the textbook. If you really want to have Aristo in his like natural habitat, absolutely grab him. But there's really no limit to what else you can add to, make your presentation really come alive. All right, so down here, we also have text. There are all sorts of text options. Magic Write. So remember, magic is sort of code for AI. Magic Write, describe your writing task, give it 5+ words, and it'll generate something for you, rather than you, typing everything out. In terms of text, they have, basic text boxes like heading and stuff like that. But then look at the font combinations. They have all of these really beautiful, graphically oriented things that I know you're looking at it, you're like, it's not the same color blue that's here. That's okay. You can always change the color of it. If you put this in, call to action, right? We want to call everyone to action to, get this trip off the ground, and, everyone should be traveling with Natalie next year. So we say call to action, and then you can change the font color. So you can change the text color, and look at all the options. The first bit of options it gives you in text are all of the colors that are currently being used in the document that you have, which is incredible because I can't match colors very well. And it's really hard, right? You're like, that looks like a light blue, but it's not like sky blue. It's kind of got like a green tint. I don't know what that color is. Canva knows what color that is, and Canva can easily pop that in and say, okay, I'm actually, I'm going to do this color, which is the color of the compass, or I'm going to try at least. There's so many colors, my gosh. Let's do this one. Okay, close enough, right, to whatever this color was. And you can change it so that you can take that, sort of graphic text type thing, and you can customize it again to whatever you want. And then of course you don't have to write call to action. You can say travel, whatever phrase you want to put in. So that's the text box. Fear not, everything you might be seeing, like as I'm hovering over these, it has like this edu thing. It says this template is included with your Canva for Education plan, which again is why Canva is like one of the best things on the planet, because everything that's premium is free for all educators and students too. So if you're in the education sphere, it's free for you. And then brand. Okay, so brand is an interesting set of content. My district, because we have like the district, well, because we're all in education, right? So my district has like a district-wide licensing thing, I guess. I don't know if licensing is the right word for it, but there's a bunch of stuff that's in Canva that is particular to our district. For example, this is the symbol of Ridgewood Public Schools, and they have it widely and quickly available for all of us to use in anything that we do for school. I mean, I'm not giving my students a grammar infographic with Ridgewood Public Schools on the bottom of it, but if I wanted to be able to access that content, if I'm making this presentation to go travel, maybe I do want Ridgewood Public Schools, as a background here. The other perk about branding is that it has all the colors of your school. So that might be a nice perk for you to have if you have like a school or a district that has like a certain color scheme. You would need someone potentially beyond our specific pay grade to be able to organize all this stuff. But I think once you get it, then you have it and all of the teachers can use it for, whatever you want. And then, you can have like different elements of your brand kit. But let's not talk about that too much right now because we are going to look at uploads. So with uploads, this is any picture or any image that you want to upload and put into your presentation. And then you can obviously, well, maybe not obviously, you can edit it and you can make it work for your specific presentation. These are all the images of the books that I read because I made that graphic of all of my summer reading. I used some Cambridge imaging for a workshop that I did in the summertime. These are some AI generated images, which I will get to, I promise, very soon. And then these are things that I've used for like my email signature, etc.
Stephanie, we do have a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Have you ever tried to take a previously existing presentation from PowerPoint or Google Slides and upload or improve them through Canva presentations?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. I'm wondering how that might work. Like, could you? I don't think it would be editable. I think that's the problem. You could, if you had like an existing PowerPoint, you can download slides by the each, as my grandmother used to say, or you could download like the whole presentation as like separate JPEGs. But let's say, you really want to use slide number 2 because that's just one of your favorite ways to present the imperative or something like that. You can probably download it as an image and then upload it to Canva and use it as an image. However, I don't think that you can edit it within Canva. So that might not have been the answer you wanted, but I think it's too separate of a platform. Okay, and then let's see here. You can draw freely as well. I am terrible with a trackpad though. It's almost embarrassing of how I cannot keep like a straight line with my finger. But if you are gifted, or if you have like, you can use, there is an app for Canva that you could use on an iPad or your iPhone. I think you could probably even use it on like an Android device. So if you have like a stylus and you'd like to draw something for your presentation, you can absolutely do this, drawing option. With projects, you can incorporate content from old projects into your current one. All right, and then let's go ahead and rip off the Band-Aid here, my friends. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to add a page. When you add a page to a presentation, it just appears as a blank one. If you really like this one and you actually just wanted this one as like a secondary one, you can, as I did before, you can just duplicate it. Let's go to a nice empty canvas here. And then we're going to do what's called magic media in Canva. So this is AI image generation. They do have also the capacity to do AI generation of graphics, which are different from images because, I mean, you can see, look, in terms of styles, right? It's more like that stuff that we saw when we went to the Elements tab where it just had like, something a little bit more simple versus like a picture, okay? They do have a relatively new feature now of doing AI generation of videos, but with all due respect, and I do respect the heck out of being able to do this, and I love that we can do it for free within Canva. Their version of a video is not my version of a video. It's like a tiny bit of movement for like 3 seconds. You might think, oh, well, 3 seconds, it's actually not. So we'll experiment with all of them though. Okay. So for images, you can type in, a phrase and it'll create an image for you. So let's see here. We are in stage 20 now, and in my classes. And so Barbalus has been hit with a spear in his shoulder. So but let's actually, you know what, I'm going to backtrack to Waynatio 2, which is where he gets injured to begin with, right? So he gets injured in this hunt in which his boat capsizes and the crocodiles surround him. The slaves are like throwing the spears to try to save Barbalus. So let's try to create an AI generated images of crocodiles thrashing. Let's see what it does with thrashing. Thrashing in a river with an overturned boat. Okay. Let's see what it creates. Before I click generate image though, I do want to demonstrate that you can have this image rendered in several different styles. Anime is so cool that they can make images that are like anime oriented, right? Think of how many kids that you have, middle school, high school, whatever. Like anime is still this like super au courant style in which to render images and to talk to students and connect with them on their level. Dreamy, it's going to be a little softer on the edges. It's going to be a little more, like imaginary or fantasy oriented. Filmic is going to make it look like it is in like a film. It's got that sort of cinematic quality. Photo is going to make it look like a photo. And then watercolor is going to make it look like it was painted. Okay, I'm going to go with anime on this one and just see what happens. You can choose the aspect ratio, but I wouldn't worry about it too much right now. I'm going to click generate image and it's going to take us a second. Oh, what happened? Where'd you go? Oh, there it is. Okay. If you're wondering, well, how on earth would I ever use this image of crocodiles on an overturned boat in a river? Wow. That's a lot of crocodiles. And in the first image here on the left, they're a little, and this one's a little anatomically weird. Okay. Let me go back to how would you ever use this? Why is this important? One of the ways of teaching Latin through stories is getting the students to use and apply vocabulary in a way that is not always asking for like a strict written translation. So sometimes expressing a story by way of action and by way of a visual is really compelling. So sometimes in class, you might have an activity in which you ask the students to illustrate a story. So from that standpoint, you could do the same illustration exercise, but just give the kids the option to use Canva to generate the image that they want to make, right? And this helps to kind of quell a lot of those kids who are like, oh, do I have to draw? I'm such a bad artist, right? And you're like, no, you're fine. You can do it. But on the flip side, you can also do the opposite, which is you choose, let's say, the 8 most important bits of the story, and you, because you know the translation of the story, you put in some key phrases, you create an image, and then the students caption it with Latin from the story. And this saves you a whole lot of time because, I mean, I've done activities like this without Canva AI, and it's so weird to Google a phrase like crocodiles thrashing. Like Google's like, what are you doing? We don't have an image of that. Where were you going to get something like that from? So this gives you a really easy opening to do a reading comprehension activity that is visual and artistically based. So when I create this, or I ask Canva AI to generate this image, as you can see, it gives me 4 options. Be careful with which option you choose because Canva AI, like all AI, is learning as it goes. So it's like constantly evolving. So the thing that you choose, it's teaching the AI engine that when the AI engine is asked about crocodiles, a boat, a river, right, that it's going to want to create that type of image again in the future. So like, for example, this one here in the lower right-hand corner, there are like, what, 20 crocodiles and they're in the boats? That's not exactly what I was getting at in terms of crocodiles being on the river and thrashing, right? I do for the story of Buenatio, I want them more like in the river itself. This one I think probably comes closest to what I would want, even though they're sort of on the boat. And I think they're kind of on the boat in a lot of them. But you could also say, I said with an overturned boat. A lot of the burden of using AI in these early days, which it is still relatively early, is crafting the right prompt. So maybe you think, oh, you know what? None of these images really capture what I want it to do. So maybe you could say crocodiles thrashing in a river next to an overturned boat. And maybe if you generate them again, you'll get better results. We'll cross our fingers on this one and we'll see if we get anything different that might be more usable for this context. It is hard work transforming those images. Oh, that's a good one because there are people in the boat. Oh, I like that one. So I think this, speaks to Wainatsu a little bit more, right? All right, so this was our image that we chose. So again, another activity that you could use this in the classroom for is a vocab activity, right? Project this image within a template, on just a blank document. Project this image on your smartboard or on your projector, and have the kids come up and just write Latin, right? What do you see in the picture? Or you could use this as a spoken Latin activity if you have a more CI-oriented classroom, like, quid videtis. And then you want the students to be able to identify, yes, chylum, arbores, crocodilus in flumine, crocodilus natat in flumine. You could engage the students with a bunch of different things, just having the right prompt. If I said graphics, I don't think it would create anything different for graphics. I'm going to give the same prompt to video. Actually, I'm just going to copy and paste it and see what it does. Videos. It takes a lot longer to, oh, that's not what I copied. Okay. It takes a little bit longer. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll just have to retype it then. All right. Crocodiles thrashing in a river next to an overturned boat. Okay. And then you generate the video. As you might have noticed, in terms of the AI generation, you are capped at a certain number of videos and images per month. But I think it's like 500 images and 50 videos. Like, we could do that, right? That's a decent maximum for us to have. I also, in terms of AI generation, I had my students do an activity last year with Canva. We read, we were in stage 25, and it was Modestus when he was in the jail. I don't know if you guys remember this story, or maybe you're not Unit 3 people, but the gist of the story is he's supposed to be guarding this like super prominent prisoner, and he gets really scared of his task because he's Modestus, and a spider falls on his face and he gets like totally wigged out. He starts making up all these excuses to Strithio, and then he's like, all right, you know what? I just have to go to the kitchen and, get some food. And he insists that he's the one to go. So we read that story on like a Thursday, and then I didn't see the classes on Friday. By the time Monday hit, the kids didn't remember necessarily what happened, but they needed to know the context that Modestus was in the kitchen when Strithio was attacked by the prominent prisoner and then, left behind when all the other prisoners escaped. They needed that context of where was Modestus and how did he get there. So we did a post-reading activity, and in that post-reading activity, I told the students to reread the story, and I told them to go to Canva and to choose a phrase from the story that they wanted to create an image for. So they all chose a different part. They all wanted the spider at first, and I just had to be like, no, we can't have 20 different spider images. So I, picked student of the day, and I said, okay, you get to do the spider. Everyone else has to find a different part. So then I had them all dump their pictures into a slideshow, and I had pre-created the slideshow so that it said, Ginny's picture, Martha's picture, Natalie's picture, and so on and so forth, so that you knew where to put your picture when you had developed it. Then I gave the students something else to do, like a worksheet or something like that. And I went back into the slides and I said, okay, this was Martha's picture. And so on the bottom of the slide, I wrote Ginny's caption. And then on Natalie's picture, I wrote Shelley's caption, so that at the end of that other activity that they were doing, I made them all go back to the slide presentation, and they had to look at an image that their peer developed from the same story, but from a part that they didn't know. And they had to figure out which Latin or interpretation of the Latin their peer used to develop that image. I had this one student last year who was very quiet. Super nice kid, very respectful, but very quiet. And we're in the middle of this activity, and he goes, this is actually a really good activity. I was like, all right, score. So there are a number of ways that you can use this AI image generation. All right, so this is the video that it finally created for us. Okay. I don't know if you guys can tell. There is some super infinitesimal movement happening here. But I will still show it to you so that you can see what Canva AI can create as far as a video goes. Okay. Here's where the video images is in the waves. Okay. So watch that. So yeah, it was 3.9 seconds, and the only video-esque thing here was the waves. And actually, it didn't even really get it right because there are no crocodiles here. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Let's let Canva and Runway ML keep working on their video creation. Let's celebrate its magic image creation and, you know, not tempt our fate any further. Okay, so I have very little time as usual. I mean, I feel like, I mean, it's all been useful. I could probably talk for like 2 more hours tonight about Canva. I'm not going to talk for that long because I know that you guys all have other things to do. All right, we talked about the elements, we talked about the AI image generator, experiment with colors. Okay, let me show you how to do some color stuff here. If you wanted to redo this color in this presentation and you wanted to say, okay, I want to select the exact font choice of my school district. Okay. Let's see here. We will go to, let's see here. Shelley, what district are you working in now?
I'm in Marlboro Public Schools. OUGH.
All right.
Yeah.
Probably not New Jersey though, right?
No, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because
right.
we are BORO. You got the New Jersey.
Okay. All right. So let's say that you wanted to use this exact school color palette for your thing. Okay. I'm gonna do something kind of complicated here. So bear with me for a second. I'm gonna move tab to oh, I can't do this in a new window, because then I'd have to change my share thing. Okay, well, let me show you what I would have done if I had had, you know, the right time to do it. So we wanted to take this font and we wanted to make it a different color. So you go to text color and you go to add a new color. So what I would do if I were Shelley, I would have the Marlboro homepage open in like another window that's just like next to it. And then you can just go to this thing. You can say, pick a color. This is like one of my new favorite toys. You go to pick a color. And then if you see, there's like this giant magnifying glass, and you can basically select any color that's currently on your screen to act as the color for your font at any point in time. All right. So I'm trying to, I don't have much else of color on this thing, but let's go with this one. All right, let's see if we can match this color. There you go. It's the exact same color. So that's a really cool way to customize your color choices and to make sure that they all kind of, you know, work. All right, we talked a lot about images, embedding. Oh, you can also embed charts and graphs. There's background patterns, AI generations. I was going to try to demo, but clearly I don't really have time. But here's what I would have, you know, showed you if I had had more time. So I was going to show you Fortuna Crudelis, which is that story in stage 20 where Barbalus's, you know, life story kind of comes out to Quintus. So the first thing I would have done was shown you ancient sailing template. There's actually, I mean, I almost feel like I need to do like a Canva part 2 workshop because there's a lot more that I wanted to show you and I just didn't have time. Let's see here, ancient sailing presentation. Okay. So if I chose this, right, it's got like a sailboat. So it's got this whole theme of sailing and stuff like that. And then I could do a bunch of things that, like, I could make this into like a reading comprehension template, in which I ask the reading comprehensions that are already, prepackaged in the textbook. You could do that, or you could do like a deep dive, per line and talk about different grammatical features or something like that. And I'm about to show you as well how to share stuff, which I know is probably a question on your mind of like, well, how do I get this to the kids? I'll get there in just a second. I also think in terms of suggesting ways to use Canva, they also have these Instagram posts. So Scorpio, astrology, Instagram. The kids use social media all the time, right? So again, meet them where they are. At the end of Fortuna Crudelis, one of the cruxes of the story is that the astrologer warns Barbalus not to travel with his family because the moon or the sun is approaching Scorpio. Scorpio is November, so right, the sailing season's getting a little dicey on the Mediterranean. So maybe you could have your students do a post-reading activity of the story and have the astrologer post something to his Instagram about the Scorpio. Or about the Scorpio moon coming. So here's a Scorpio template, and you could have the character, sort of react to what has happened, or at least, kind of make a prediction about it. Okay, I know that we are pressed for time, so I'm going to show you how to share stuff because you want to be able to get this stuff to your students. If it's a presentation and you just want to present it in like a static way, which is what I'm doing tonight, you would just click present. But you want to be able to share it with other people. So the first bit of sharing is more, classic Google Doc related sharing. So you can add a specific person from your district. Maybe I want to work on this with Amy. And so I would add her as an editor. I can also add her just as someone who comments, or I can add her as someone who can just view it to say, hey, this is what I'm using with my students next week. So that's an option that's pretty classic Google Doc oriented. You can also, in the same way of Google Docs, just give people a link and say, okay, click on this and then go edit it. But now here's where the magic happens, my friends. Scroll down and you get the option of downloading it for one, so that you can have a paper copy. You can print it out for students who might have trouble with, seeing things on a screen, or who might have some issues with dyslexia. The public view link, that's the link that I gave you guys for the webinar tonight. So that's what you're viewing for my presentation, is the public view link. You can print it like professionally with Canva. That's how Canva makes its money, is by people like sending their posters to Canva and asking Canva to reproduce them en masse. So if you make a really cool birthday invitation for your son's 13th birthday, you can print it with Canva too. But here's the crux, right? How do you assign things to students? Well, you make it an assignment, or you link it to Google Classroom. So if I have this quick Google Classroom, I'm actually going to ignore that for a second. I'm going to give you this more generic thing because I think more of you will be able to use it with non-Google schools. So where do you want students to submit their work? They can submit it to you via Canva. They can submit it to you via Google Classroom, Microsoft Teams, or another learning management system. I'm going to go ahead and select Teams. And then when you share this with the students, do you want this document of a presentation or whatever, do you want this as just instructions to the kids of what they should be doing? Or do you want this to become a template that each child can edit their own version of it and then submit it? So if you have, like, again, a reading comprehension document or something that rereads a story and, asks about the present participles or something like that, you can create this presentation then as a template, have the students put their answers in, and then they can submit it to your learning management software at that point. Those are the major ways of sharing, but if you click see all, I mean, my God, there's like, I don't know, like 10 other options, right? You can make it into a QR code, copy it to a clipboard, put it on your website, open in Cami, send it to your phone. You can make it into a PowerPoint right from here if you wanted to, send it to Dropbox. You can share stuff directly from Canva to your social media if that's something that you're interested in doing, again, to sort of promote your students' accomplishments or something like that. And if you go to more options, look at, I'm a tech guru. I don't know half of these things, nor do I use them. But maybe you do. Maybe you're looking at one of these icons and you're like, oh my God, I love Starchive. Well, there you go. Canva will help you get your content to Starchive or whatever your reference point is. So it is time, and I am so sorry for like talking the whole time. I feel like I didn't really have time for a lot of questions, and there are so many other features that I would encourage you play, have fun with Canva, and don't be afraid to hang around and try different things. That magic heading, it extends so far past just what AI can do. So definitely, be open to the possibilities of Canva.
Wow, that was pretty amazing. Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but if there are a couple of questions for you that anybody would like to answer, she can do it for just a couple more minutes. And just as a reminder, if anybody needs a professional development certificate, if you'll just email us at training@cambridgelatin.org, we'll get that out to you right away. Thank you so very much. I'm going to stop the recording.